Aries Girl Podcast. Zodiacs, if you couldn't already tell, I'm really obsessed with the color purple. This royal color always brings me joy and peace, which is why I'm always wearing or surrounded by purple in my videos. And I know that Kiki Jabbar and I shared this in common, which made me like her even more on Love and Marriage Huntsville. She was already so beautiful and so smart, so the fact that she loved purple was just an added bonus for me. So from one purple-loving girl named Aries to another named Kiki, I get you. I just want to say again to her family that I am so sorry for your loss and that it doesn't seem real. I hope and pray that peace finds you and comforts you during this trying time. The powers that be, from Love and Marriage Huntsville only took a second or two, acknowledging Kiki at the end of this episode, but in my opinion, what they did was forced and hurried. You could tell from the picture of Kiki they chose, and the use of the color yellow. Everyone knows Kiki's favorite color is purple, so the least that I can do is show Love and Marriage Huntsville production how a tribute is done. Rest in peace, Kiki, you are truly missed. Welcome to the Aries Girl Podcast. I'm your host, Aries Ramsey. All commentary provided in this video is alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only, under the guidance of the Fair Use Act of 1976. Well, now that we have that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the show. Hello Zodiacs. This was another Melody Sherry Rogers free edition of Love and Marriage Huntsville, and the ratings have again suffered for it because Carlos King is still trying to make Martell Holt out to be the victim, while propping up Stormi Steele. No wonder they are the new kids on the cell block. Birds of a harassing communications feather do in fact flock together. In the first scene of the episode, we meet up with Nell Fletcher going to visit her husband Chris at his real estate office. We then go into Nell's confessional where she states that she is at Chris's office because she has been dealing with some things that have been wearing down heavily on her, and she thinks that this would be a great time to let Chris know how she feels. Back in scene, she asks Chris what he has going on, and he tells her that he is actually looking for properties for Sunny and Moses. This made Nell's face drop, literally. Chris explains that Moses heard that he was a real estate broker and told him that he and Sunny were into flipping houses in St. Louis and in other areas, and that they were even thinking about moving to Alabama. Well, Chris admits that he isn't sure if Moses actually said the word moving. Nell responds by saying that it will be interesting if Sunny and Moses move there, and questions if Chris actually agreed to look for properties for them. Well, Chris says that he's a real estate broker, and Moses asked him to look for them. What is Chris supposed to say? No, I can't sell you a house. Still, Nell wonders if Chris doesn't think it'll be a conflict because of destiny. Chris tells her that if someone asks him to sell them a house, he doesn't have to check with destiny. Nell claims that she isn't saying that Chris needs to check with destiny, but she wonders, with everything that Chris has been through with destiny, and she stops talking. In case you all aren't aware, this is more than likely pertaining to the situation with the blogger pretending to be interested in the house that Destiny was living in when LeBaric filed for divorce. This blogger allegedly took photos of the home and posted them online, and of course, Chris was the broker trying to sell the house, so it is one big entanglement and mess that Nell stopped short of explaining. However, Chris admits to Nell that he hasn't spoken with Destiny about that. And Nell quickly changes the subject and tells Chris why she actually came to see him, which is their issues with their kids and money. At least 2 or 3 kids need financial assistance, and it always seems to be Chris and their niece Kiki, and Lance just here and there, and how all of that money adds up. Nell doesn't know if the kids know how stressful it is for her and thinks they are at a place where they need to set boundaries with the kids as it is affecting her mental health. Nell, have you told your kids this before? If so, they would know, and you could be living the financial life that you want to live. Those boundaries should have been set and enforced a long time ago, in my opinion. Chris tells her that he considers her and that the kids do go to her for money, but when he talks to her about it, he doesn't present it to her as a problem. However, he does notice a shift with her lately, so he knows that something is wrong. He then decides they need to have a talk with the kids because he doesn't want Nell stressed out. In their joint confessional, Chris tells Nell that she shouldn't hold on to things like that and that she needs to come to him if something is bothering her or if the kids do something stupid. And Nell clarifies his statement by asking him if he is telling her to drop everything on him, and that he's going to handle it, and Chris says he can do that, and it's looking like Nell is going to hold him to that. Back in scene, Chris suggests calling the kids and inviting them to dinner, and Nell immediately says that she isn't cooking dinner. In my opinion, at this dinner, Chris and Nell should give every child a check for any amount that they feel is warranted, and in the memo line of that check, write the words, emergency money. Tell them to put it in savings for any upcoming hard times and not to contact them again for money, point blank, period. In the second scene, Chris arrives at Martell's investment property, the one he allegedly built under someone else's builder's license because he can't pass the open book test that's needed to obtain said license. We are taken into Chris's confessional where he states that he is showing Moses and Sunny this particular property, and that he and Destiny are pretty good friends. He even calls her his little sister, but he doesn't feel as though he should have to speak with Destiny first. Real estate is his business, it's what he does, he's a realtor, and Chris doesn't think that he should have to get permission from anyone before buying or selling any property. Back in scene as he enters the property, who, other than Martell Holt, is there, in a tight pair of khaki shorts with a long-sleeved shirt covered by a vest, and he's wearing loafers without socks. This is another crime against fashion. Do I need to call the fashion police again like I did on Destiny in my last review? Sorry for going off on that tangent, but Destiny's confessional outfit was a hot mess. Anyway, Martell explains to Chris that he is trying to get some things at the house in order and asks Chris what time, quote unquote, they are supposed to be here. When Chris responds by saying that they should be there in the next few minutes, it prompts Martell to ask him if they are from, do they live here? It looks like someone tripped over their lines from the script. Do better, Martell. Chris delivered his lines just as badly, because he said, I think right now, they reside out of town, maybe St. Louis. So, Martell just has to know what is bringing them to Huntsville, and Chris isn't sure. They could be moving to Huntsville or just looking for an investment home. But old Marty Marr wants to know who it is. Is it Moses and Sunny, he asks. Breaking news, duh. Then Martell wants to know if Chris talked to Destiny about it. It's not like he thinks Chris has to talk to her, but Martell is just saying. And Chris is literally saved by the bell when Sunny and Moses ring the doorbell, so he hurries to go open the door. Back in Chris's confessional, he says that he doesn't know why everyone thinks that he needs Destiny's permission to sell a damn house. Moses and Sunny are looking for a property to buy. He's a real estate broker. Martell has built the home and wants to sell it. He doesn't see a problem. Hopefully, they can work things out so everybody wins. Upon entry, Sunny and Moses greet Chris and Martell and begin to check out the house. Martell immediately gets in their business, asking if they were trying to move to Huntsville, and Sunny tells him that they are looking to start a family, but Martell rudely asks Sunny if she's pregnant. They all start laughing, but Sunny makes it clear that she said the word starting and not started. And Martell says to Sunny that it only takes one night to start a family. Yeah, you would know, wouldn't you, Martell? Because you started multiple families with multiple women. Chris decides to show them around the house and eventually the backyard, and Martell says to let him know if they have any questions. In their joint confessional, Moses says that coming from St. Louis, he doesn't want to have to look over his shoulders because it is violent there. He's looking for a good place to raise your kids, and Huntsville would be a great start for his family. Sunny says that she wants her kids to experience a life where they don't always hear gunshots. She wants a safe environment. While they are all in the front yard, Sunny asks if she is looking at a school, and Martell says that it's an elementary school, and that Nell's daycare is close by as well. When Sunny mentions that she likes that the house is close to a school, Chris chimes in about the daycare as well since they are working on their family. This is when Sunny brings up that she just completed her second round of IVF. They just need to see how the eggs mature, and then they should be ready for implantation. Moses changes the subject by asking how old the house is, as well as the asking cost, to which Martell says that he just finished up last week and the asking is $340,000, but he has incentives and a lot of room to negotiate. So, the house is only a week old at this point in the season. Really, Martell? Chris told them that he wanted to give them first dibs on the property as they discussed at the Lovers and Friends Gala. Sunny shrugged and said, ugh, at the mention of the gala, and Chris asked her why she said that. She mentions that she doesn't know if she enjoyed it, but said that Stormi put on a good event. But Chris digs deeper and asks Sunny if he didn't see her talking to his wife, Linnell, and old Marty Mar mentioned that Sunny talked to Destiny as well at the event and recalls their conversation. Sunny understands that Destiny is in her emotions, but says disrespect is a different thing. Moses isn't mad at how Destiny is feeling, but mentions that Destiny fumbled the ball. He said that Destiny was focusing on herself and wasn't paying any attention to him. Martell claims that he can put more respect on things because he now understands that Moses and Sunny weren't playing Destiny. And Sunny reiterates that she and Destiny weren't on the same timeline with Moses. When she met Moses and started dating him, she immediately felt like he could be her husband, and Moses also felt that Sunny could be his wife. Now, Martell claims that now that he's hearing their side, things aren't that bad, but he's told Destiny that he is going to remain neutral. When Chris clarified with Martell saying he was neutral, he wanted to be sure and asked Martell whether or not he was picking sides. So, Marty Mar starts stuttering and saying that he heard both sides. He's neutral now, but if Moses does anything toward Destiny, he's riding with Destiny all day. Now, it's time for Martell to earn some bonus pay by bashing Melody. Because, he then says to Chris that he and Nell ride with Melody, even though they see what Melody is doing to him. Martell, stop the lies. Melody Cherie is not doing anything to you. Chris then claims that he is neutral when it comes to Martell and Melody. Martell has a pity party in his confessional by saying that Chris is trying to justify his neutral stance with Melody and equate it to him being neutral with Sunny and Moses. Apparently, he thinks the difference is that he and Melody got divorced and that they also have kids together and that it is a big difference. I'm not sure if his tight clothes are affecting his thought process, but Martell needs to understand that being neutral means not taking a side, and that's regardless of the situation. Sunny says that it is good to be neutral, and she hopes that one day she and Destiny can be neutral and in the same space, because she doesn't hate Destiny and she understands that the situation between her and Moses doesn't look well. And of course, Martell has to add that you can't help who you fall in love with, because he was in that same situation, but he fell in love with someone else while he was married to Melody. And it's almost like a light bulb went off when Martell realized that Moses and Sunny weren't married, when Destiny was Moses's 15-year side chick. But Chris being Chris, asks Moses and Sunny if they are married now. Chris, you already know the answer to this, but thanks for asking. They are married, ready to have kids and ready to buy a house. Surprisingly, Martell wished Sunny and Moses the best, and Sunny thanked him and remarked that someone finally said it. Well, Zodiacs, that ends the scene. I am having a hard time believing that Martell only finished this house a week ago, and this is the 10th episode of the season. But that's not the only lie being told in this episode, so I will just roll with it. In the third scene, we meet up with Martell arriving at Stormi's warehouse. As soon as he walks into the area where Stormi is, he trips and almost falls. Martell then jokes about it being a potential lawsuit, and Stormi tells him not to play with her. They discuss the Lovers and Friends Gala and Stormi's disappointment in Martell not participating because she got Trisha to train him to get his body in shape. However, Martell suggests that Stormi shouldn't be mad at him, but mad at the cookies and cakes that he's eaten. Stormi then questions Martell on why he was being so weird with Trisha at her house. Martell then admits that Trisha was mad about him not remembering her as well, and had even mentioned it to Ken. Stormi stirs the pot by saying that it seemed as though Martell and Trisha knew each other in another way. And then, Martell drops the bomb and admits that Trisha had come over to the house a couple of times. In his confessional, Martell states that before Ken, he slid in Trisha's DMs, but they didn't do anything. Back in scene, Stormi starts questioning him as to why Trisha would be at his crib, and Martell claims that it was on some cool-ish. Now, we re-enter his confessional, where a producer is asking him if he was quote-unquote interested, and he only admits to being interested enough to DM Trisha to come to his crib to see what's up. The question that Stormi is failing to ask Martell is if he was still married to Melody at this time, or if this was after his divorce from Melody. We already can assume that Trisha was still married, because she still is currently. Martell admits to Stormi that he did not tell Ken that Trisha had come to his crib, but he did tell Ken that he had communicated with Trisha. We then go to Stormi's confessional, where she says that at this point, she doesn't know if anything has ever happened between Martell and Trisha. All she knows is that she is in the middle of some BS right now. Back in scene, Martell says that he was surprised that he didn't see Melody there, and Stormi tells him how Melody told her that she wasn't coming once she knew Martell was going to be there. Stormi, you know that there isn't a parallel universe that exists to where Melody and Martell need to be in the same space together. I don't care if Martell recently was in the same room with her at their child's spelling bee after his arrest. After Martell hinted about his arrest, Stormi told him how she saw his mugshot and was arrested for harassing communications as well. Deservedly so, Stormi, deservedly so. And of course, Stormi blames this on a mellometer and gives Martell her version of what happened, which wasn't the entire truth. I guess she's getting some extra bonus pay as well for bashing the mellometers. Back in his confessional, Martell says that if anyone knows what Stormi is going through, it's him. Because, wait for it, these mellometers are unhinged. He says that Melody created them and named them. He also says that even though there's no excuse for the mellometers' behavior, he feels that Melody could still hold them responsible. Have a seat, sir. Have several seats. Did the mellometers make you threaten to release revenge P on Melody? Or, was that your own idiotic doing? I'm guessing that the mellometers made you continue to cheat on Melody as well. Then, Martell wants to know how Stormi's relationship is with Melody. Stormi states how Melody is different towards her than it was when they first met. She now speculates that it has something to do with her relationship with Destiny. So Stormi, you're just going to admit how you weren't honest about your relationship with Ariane, and that's what led to the demise of your friendship with Melody, okay then? However, Stormi claims that she has respect for anyone that's doing something, but at the same time, she has to protect herself. Martell wants to know how Stormi is going to move forward with everything, and Stormi says that when you're really winning, that nothing can F with you. So, Stormi, I guess that you weren't winning when the blogger showed up at your warehouse because you had a whole damn meltdown. You also had a meltdown during your 15 minutes in jail when you had to turn yourself in. But I digress. Stormi slips in the fact that she's proud of Martell for building houses and tells him to build the next. That ends that silly scene. I'll be proud if Martell ever obtains his builder's license. Well, shocked actually. In the fourth scene, we meet up with Kimi and Maurice at a cute Japanese restaurant. As they are seating themselves, he tells Kimi that she looks good and asked her what was up with the green, and her response is that green is the new black. According to whom? May I ask Kimi? There's a whole show on Netflix called Orange is the New Black. I'm just saying. He asks how her day went, and she ends up mentioning that she has one more person she needs to do a showing for, and then said that Destiny even wanted to see the last available office that they had at university. And wait for it, the irony is that they are meeting Sunny and Moses at the restaurant shortly. Maurice wants to know if Kimi is torn, and she admits that she is, because it isn't like she's been friends with Sunny or Destiny for 20 years, even though she is friends with Destiny. Kimi also thinks that the way that Sunny and Moses happened was messy, and she wonders how Destiny would feel to find out that they broke bread with Sunny and Moses. Then, in walks Sunny and Moses, and the four of them greet one another. We are taken into Sunny's and Moses's joint confessional, where she says that she invited Kimi out because she wanted the opportunity to sit with her without Tisha. She also wasn't quite sure where they left off after they met at that coffee shop. Back in scene, Sunny thanks them for coming out, and Kimi thanks her for the invite. Maurice immediately shifts the vibe by asking them when they are moving to Huntsville. Maurice, where did you hear that from? I mean, Sunny and Moses just sat down. Stop jumping ahead of the script, sir. But Sunny tells him that they are now working on it. Kimi fakes being surprised by telling Sunny to slow down and then asks if they are thinking about moving to Huntsville. Sunny tells them it is in consideration because she and Moses are starting a family, and she has family and friends who live in Huntsville. Kimmy states that she is a believer in Huntsville, but all things considered, she wonders if Sunny feels like it is rubbing salt in the wound. Gee, Kimmy, like your husband Maurice wasn't rubbing salt in the wound of your relationship when he wanted Kiowa to move to Huntsville, so move on, Kimmy. Moses told Kimmy that it shouldn't be rubbing salt in a wound because they are all grown. Well, Moses, let me correct you, sir. You are all old enough to say that you are grown, but Destiny has childlike tendencies, so she's not grown in my book, but I understand what you are saying. Sunny wants them to get to a place where they can be cordial. Back in their joint confessional, Moses states that his wife told him about Huntsville, and it's a good place to move for a family, and Sunny says that it was never their intention to hurt anybody. In scene, Sunny tells them that Chris Fletcher showed them Martell's investment property. When Maurice states that it's a nice family home, Moses said that it would be nice for an investment property, and Sunny adds that they don't know much about the north side of Huntsville. We then are reminded that they all came from areas that are a little rough, in my opinion. Maurice is from Pontiac, Michigan, and Kimmy is from Baltimore, Maryland, and Kimmy actually moved to Huntsville for family and safety for her son Jalen. Now Sunny feels the same about raising their children there, but when she said, "our children," Maurice states his relief that their IVF is occurring in St. Louis because of how Alabama laws are. Maurice then asks if they want a boy or a girl, and Sunny tells them she wants twins, one of each, and of course, Maurice mentions that everything that Sunny and Moses do is fast. Back in their confessional, Moses states that he's at an age where he's ready to have kids, and Sunny said that when she went to the doctor and learned that she had complications, IVF was the option that the doctor gave her, and they started IVF before they even got married. Back in scene, they discuss growing up. It was rough for Maurice in Pontiac. In total, his mom had 8 kids and his dad ended up going to jail for some undisclosed reason, and 31 of his friends were killed before he turned 21. His whole family ended up coming to Huntsville because he went to school at A&M. Back in their confessional, Sunny says that she thinks that Kimmy and Maurice can relate because they come from similar backgrounds, as they did in St. Louis. Moses said that he was locked up with guys from Baltimore, Detroit, and Pontiac, so he gets it. In scene, Moses tells of his upbringing with his grandmother taking care of them, and that he grew up in a house with about 8 of his cousins in the Walnut Park section of St. Louis. This area of town is rough, according to Moses. Also, Sunny has family in that area that Moses grew up with. We also learn that Moses went to prison at 17, came home, and went back to prison when he was about 19 years old. His grandmother gave him a property that he refinanced, from which he bought 2 additional homes with those funds and flipped those for a profit. Moses said that he learned what older guys were doing to be successful besides the negative things, and that he's been owning property since he was 19 years old, but he couldn't let the streets go, which is how he ended up going back to prison. Nosy Maurice asked Moses how much time he did, to which Moses told him that he did 8.5 years the last time he went in, and he was in prison 15 years altogether. To be even more nosy, Maurice asked Moses what was his turning point. Moses explains that it was due to him losing a lot of family and friends during the pandemic. In Maurice's confessional, he claims that he didn't understand Moses in the aspect of his timing, but now he understands. He brings up how Moses was with Destiny a year ago, but now Moses is married to Sunny just to be messy, I guess. But now he understands that Moses is pressed because he spent a lot of time away from people that he loved, and he's lost a lot in a little bit of time. Now, I hope we get a scene in the near future with Moses asking Maurice about his recent DUI and what his turning point was as well. In scene, Sunny says, "To make it out of St. Louis is a big accomplishment to be safe and alive." But Kimmy and her rudeness cut Sunny off by asking Moses what he did for a living, to which Moses mentioned that he was a real estate investor and that he has a trucking logistics company. And yes, Maurice, that is what attracted Moses to Sunny. She has drive and ambition. She works for it instead of just wishing for it, like Destiny. Sunny understands Moses and what he's been through. And Maurice goes back into confessional to say that after this double date, his takeaway is that Sunny and Moses are equally yoked. They both have certain aspirations, and it seems like Sunny is the leader in the relationship, rightly so, because some of the decisions that Moses has made has landed him in a poor position. Do you mean like your poor decision that led to your DUI, Maurice? So now, I guess Kimmy is the leader in your relationship? In scene, Kimmy thanks Sunny for the invite and explains how Sunny was there for her during her cancer diagnosis and extends an invitation to her eatery for a tasting. Kimmy then jokes that they could have come to her to see properties, but it's okay that they went with Chris Fletcher, and Sunny told her that it was because she didn't know how Kimmy was feeling about things. This prompts Kimmy to ask how Martell was feeling about them looking at his investment property, and Sunny said that Martell was chill. They joke that Destiny will understand because Martell needs to sell that house. The scene ends with Kimmy saying that since Sunny and Moses didn't sign an agreement with Chris, she might show them some properties. Kimmy, please don't have Chris and Nell Fletcher upset with you. In the final scene, we are at the Fletcher's house where Nell is putting together a pan of lasagna that doesn't appear to have enough meat for her husband Chris. In their confessional, Chris states that he's invited the kids to dinner along with their niece Kiki, and Nell says that she hopes that this time, everything goes as planned and that it doesn't go left like it has in the past. Back in scene, their daughter Kayla and niece Kiki walk in, as well as their sons Chris Jr. and Lance. They all greet one another, and the kids take off their coats and sit down in the kitchen. Where's Lexi? I'm just kidding. Nell states that she wanted to see what was going on with them because they don't get phone calls unless someone is in trouble. Chris Jr. mentions that he has a job as a supervisor that he is enjoying. Yay, Chris Jr. Please don't steal anything and end up in jail again. Chris Sr. tells his son that he's proud of him, and Nell tells Chris Jr. to keep it up. Then Nell lets the kids know that they need to set some boundaries regarding giving them money because she and her husband have things that they want to do. She tells the kids not to call her if it's not an emergency. Wrong move, Nell. Everything will now be an emergency. You should have just done what I suggested earlier in this video. Chris Sr. said that they all need to look at the whole picture, and Nell interrupts him and tells the kids that they are setting them back, and at some point they have to take the initiative to pay their own. Chris completed the sentence by saying they needed to pay their own-ish. Back in confessional, Nell says the money lending has to stop and Chris agrees because it can affect their future goals. In scene, Nell tells the kids they will be fine and Chris Sr. agrees. Nell then says that the only people she's willing to put in front of herself are her grandkids, and not them because they can take care of themselves. And this sends her niece into hysterics and tears, because Chris and Nell are basically her parents and her aunt and uncle all rolled into one, and she and her daughter don't have anyone else to turn to, and is hurt that Nell didn't reference her daughter as a grandkid. Then, she needed to be consoled. Kiki, it's time to grow up and develop tougher skin. I know that Nell felt bad for excluding you, but sweetheart, she said what she said. Back in confessional, Nell states that Kiki is like a daughter to her, and that Kiki looks at them as if they are her parents, and at the same time, she sees herself as parentless as well. Chris thinks that she has that emotional stance because her mom and dad do exist, but they haven't been active in her life. Nell tells of how Kiki gets very emotional when family matters are spoken of because she feels as though she's being excluded. They just have to handle her differently with lots of care. To close out the episode, Chris asks how they would feel about having group therapy, and everyone seems fine with it except Nell. Nell, weren't you saying how your mental health was being affected at the beginning of the episode, but you are turning your nose up at therapy? Make it make sense. Kiki is excited about an outsider giving them their perspective. Chris Jr. wants to do a group session and a personal session, and Nell thinks he needs to see a therapist. And Kayla says she would love to. But Nell stresses that they are going to therapy. Chris Sr. asks how they feel about Dr. Francis, and my immediate thought is to ask if they have seen Dr. Francis before. Love and Marriage Huntsville viewers know Dr. Francis, but how do your kids know him? Apparently, Nell has seen Dr. Francis in action and says that he doesn't mind telling you how he feels, and tells the kids to let her know how it works for them. Now, Chris Jr. states that the fact that Nell doesn't want to go to therapy would make for a good therapy session topic, especially with Nell being Kiki's aunt and mother figure. Lance tells Chris Jr. that he is 100% right. Chris Jr. adds that he thinks Nell needs solo therapy, not just group therapy. Checkmate Nell, checkmate. Good call, Chris Jr. But Nell says that she just needs to get out of debt. She's not doing therapy. We shall see Nell. We shall see, because this episode ends on a cliffhanger. Zodiacs, what do you think? I'm sensing some underlying issues with Nell that haven't yet surfaced. Also, where in the hell are their niece Kiki's parents? Are we ever going to find out what the deal is? I guess time will tell, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Despite both Stormi and Martell being familiar with being arrested previously, I honestly wonder why this episode was entitled New Kids on the Cell Block. Jailbirds would have been a better fit. Regardless, this concludes my review of Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 8, Episode 10. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and why not go ahead and support the channel by subscribing, so that you never miss an episode of the Aries Girl podcast. I will see you on the next video. Until then, take care.